But it wasn't like that, and Micah ended up lying on his back with the ropes clutched to his chest, staring up at the ceiling. A few minutes later, twinkling stars appeared on the fabric. They swirled into shapes: frogs, people, trees. The Lightbender was trying to make him feel better. Micah watched the constellations shift, and he imagined his great-aunt, her hair pulled back in a painfully tight bun, like always, opening her front door to find Victoria standing there. Micah felt sorry for Aunt Gertrudis. Her letter hadn't been warm, but it showed she cared at least enough to warn him. She flew away, Micah thought. That was what the letter had said. What must it have felt like to look up and see the bird woman flying when all those years ago she had let Gertrudis fall? Half an hour passed, and the swirling lights on the ceiling winked out. A moment later, sparkling letters appeared in their place. Meeting in the manager's office. Micah frowned. Was the Lightbender only letting him know another meeting had been called? Or was Micah actually being invited? He waited a minute, but the letters didn't fade. I am being invited, he realized. He scrambled out of his room, almost running into his guardian who'd been standing in front of the seam. I thought that would get your attention, the Lightbender said mildly. Did you want to come to? Yes, said Micah. I'm ready. Is the meeting about me? Somewhat. I thought you wouldn't want to be left out. Rosebud and Porter were standing by the aquarium when Micah and the Lightbender entered the menagerie. Fish bashed his tail into the glass when he spotted Micah, and Rosebud gave the idea a curious look. It's grown again. The adults all took their shoes off at the door before entering the manager's office, which made Micah feel guilty for all the times he hadn't done it himself. He left his sneakers by the Lightbender's boots before he stepped through the seam. Inside the office, Mr. Head, the inventor, Jeffrey, and Bowler sat waiting. Micah decided it was best not to ask what seat he ought to take in case it was an amateur move for an important meeting attendee. He headed toward a chair across the circle from the manager, looking around to see what the others were doing in case there was some special etiquette he ought to follow. If so, the magicians weren't giving it away. Rosebud sat tall and straight, her hands folded in her lap. Bowler had plopped himself down onto the sofa beside the inventor. Jeffrey and the Lightbender slouched in chairs by the manager, and Porter went to stand with his back to the fireplace. What have you learned? Mr. Head asked, once everyone had settled. Not as much as we wanted to, Bowler said. Victoria knows Micah exists, and she assumed he would be with his great-aunt, Jeffrey said, nodding at Micah. She's been checking in on the family over the years, Micah realized. If she hadn't been, she wouldn't even have known he'd been born. The notion of Victoria lurking near his house while he grew up, watching him and his grandfather from above, made him feel like insects were crawling over him. Gertrudis was shaken up to see someone she thought was long dead, Jeffrey added. I'll give her credit for coming to her senses after the fact and sending that letter, but it was done half out of guilt. She gave away more information than she should have, and she realized it after the bird woman flew off. He glanced at the Lightbender, and the illusionist turned to Micah. It seems Victoria had a lot of questions about your magic. She has some sense of its magnitude, the manager said sharply. Micah leaned forward in his seat. He wanted Mr. Head to explain what he meant by magnitude, but Jeffrey spoke up instead. Seems like Victoria didn't know what kind of magic Micah had inherited at all. Well, Aunt Gertrudis couldn't have told her anything about that, said Micah. I couldn't talk about magic around her without starting a fight. She spent her whole life trying to pretend like it doesn't exist. What an unfortunate point of view, Mr. Head murmured. Bowler nodded in agreement. All your great-aunt knew for sure was that you tied knots, he said to Micah. She told Victoria that, and Victoria didn't like